Today, I'm going to start a mini series on anxiety. What it is what we're going to define today, and some of the key points about anxiety. And then I'm going to move into one of 3 points that I have come up with, 3 principles that help you to reduce anxiety or deal with it when you do experience it. So I hope that I'm so glad you're here with me today, and I really want to encourage you right off the bat to share this video out and this series out because it is such a huge issue in our world today. And that's because our fast-paced world, it's just caused all ages, not just young people, to want everything fast and to be impatient, and the pressures on us and that kind of thing. All of it is kind of a temptation for anxiety, is the way I say it. Like, it tempts us to be anxious. It produces and fosters anxiety, our world today. So, right off the bat, let's define anxiety or kind of share some of what it looks like. And again, I always welcome comments as well. So you can let me know what you think anxiety is. So it is an uneasiness, one way to put it, an uneasiness that's in our bodies, but yet comes from our thinking. I want to stress that because that's true. And it is also considered a feeling of worry. That's another way of feeling of worry. And it always has to do with the future. Maybe it's the near future or the distant future. It always is a future. It's because of a thought that you're thinking about the future. It has to do with the future. So I want to emphasize that for a reason. It can be nervousness. That's another way we can describe it. It entails fear of something bad happening. There's usually a fear mixed in with anxiety. Fear and anxiety go hand in hand, Gary Rove says. And there's usually a fear of something in the future bad happening because, sometimes we get afraid of good things happening too, don't we? We could be anxious over a fear of something good happening for whatever reason, but it's usually an anticipation of something negative or bad or negative. So that is part of it. And then the psychological condition of anxiety, where people say, anxiety disorder or what have you, in general is an excessive apprehension about real or perceived threats that is ongoing, that does not stop, that persists and disrupts normal life. So that's when it can be considered a condition or what have you, is when it's constant, ongoing, and it disrupts our daily life and we can't function properly in daily life. And which typically leads to avoidance behavior. And so here are some symptoms of anxiety: increased heart rate, muscle tension, being tense in general, fast breathing, sweating, or feeling tired. And there's probably other ones too. Irritability, there can be other ones as well, right? So it's a condition, again, when it's excessive and all consuming and interferes with daily living. So that's just to give some definition to it, more that we can share on with that, right? Put it in the comments if you have a different definition that you define anxiety with, okay? So that's important to realize, that there's usually some fear in there somewhere, and it's based on something in the future. It could be even something that day, but it's usually, it often has to do with something that's bad happened in the past that we're afraid of going to happen in the future. So here are some general facts about it. We all experience it at some time. We've all walked in anxiety, experienced anxiety, whatever that, because even though it's not like one of the general emotions or feelings, it's something we experience in our body. So it's very common to man, very common to people, okay, human beings, if I want to get specific. And second of all, it's promoted and fostered, or like I said at the beginning, it is even more likely that people are just dealing with it in our day and age, and they have seen, the researchers or the people who do studies on this and try to get factual statistics and evidence on this, there is a big rise of anxiety. I don't know what those stats are offhand, but there's definitely a big rise in anxiety in our day and age. Okay. So again, common and even more common in this day and age in our world today. Third, if you are grieving, if you've experienced a serious loss, especially one that has rocked your world or changed your life forever, is a way that I put it. And maybe you haven't thought of it that way, but when you go, oh, Julie just said changed a loss, a death of a loved one that's changed my life forever. Yeah, that's a good way to describe what I'm going through. That even more makes it common or normal to feel anxiety. It's a common thing we go through in grief and loss. Now, why? I just want to define from my point of view why. Because if it's a death of a loved one, especially if it's a close relationship or somebody we've been around a lot, that is a permanent thing. You can't bring them back. So therefore, it is totally normal. And again, maybe you haven't consciously thought of this, but it's totally normal to feel more out of control in your life because that loved one, friend, family member, spouse, child, whoever it is gone and it's permanent. So therefore, you cannot bring them back. So you feel more out of control in your life. There's less control. A lot of times it makes us feel totally like our whole life is turned upside down and out of our control. So I'm big on talking about the circle of control and the serenity prayer. So I just want to refer to those briefly, but that is a big key is to realizing that you feel more out of control and therefore you're more likely to want to grab hold of control or or plus you're afraid that something's going to happen again. You might be afraid that you're going to lose another loved one or fears are more common because of that loss. So that's the way I describe it. It can often make it a deeper, a bigger struggle to not be anxious. Okay. So I just want, if you are going through grief and loss, you're definitely a human being if you're watching this, hopefully, right? And you're living in this day and age, right? You're not dead. So those are three common factors that contribute to anxiety. And just to help you to realize you're not alone in this, and that is doesn't mean you're crazy or you're, you have a condition of it just because you're dealing with it more. Okay. So today I also want to go into the first of three principles that I've come up with, main principles that when we work on these principles and learn how they help us, we can learn more how to deal with our anxiety and hopefully experience less of it because it is not a healthy thing and it has to do with stress. Stress and anxiety go hand in hand too, right? When we're under a lot of stress or anxiety, if we are, for whatever reason, having more anxiety happen, we are going to feel more stress. So that goes hand in hand too, I would say. So my first principle is be present. Now that's putting it in 2 words. I'm a teacher, so I like to explain things out a little more too, or say it in different ways so that we all hopefully can grasp it. But be present is being in the now, being living today. Okay. But another way you could put it is bring yourself back into the present because if you're in anxiety, experiencing high anxiety, it's future oriented. Our mind is thinking about something in the near future or foreseeing future or far future that we're afraid of, or whether it's repeating it again, oh no, we're going to experience it again. Our body can also be saying danger, danger, danger. That's part of why we get all this tension and heart rate going and that kind of stuff because our body can be telling us danger because our mind is telling us danger. So we need to come back into the present. So I'm going to be talking more about this next week too. But right now, I just want to help us to realize it is so important when dealing with anxiety. Bring yourself back into the present. Come back into the present. How do we do that? We're going to talk about that into next week. I would love to hear ideas from you too. What do you do to bring yourself back into the present? You may know what I'm talking about, and you may have learned this from somewhere else, and you have purposed this. So I would love to hear from you, or maybe you're just now realizing. coming back into the present, bringing yourself back into the present. There's different ways to do that. I'll touch on it briefly. Deep breathing is a really good one. So another one is I learned from Dr. Caroline Lee through her detox. One of her first steps is to be aware of the senses, your senses, what you're smelling at the time, what you're tasting, what you're seeing, and what you're feeling. Sometimes you have to touch something, even feel something with your hand, and what you're seeing. Now, there are so many benefits of being present. There's a lot of emphasis on this in relationships, being present when you're talking to somebody. We are talking about being present, bringing yourself back into the present for your own sake, is what I'm referring to today. But there is a lot of benefits of it, and being present can help you be more ready to deal with life moment by moment because you're there. You're not just thinking about what you got to do in the next minute and the rest of the day and work and whatever it is, the task. So think about that, and there's a lot of benefits to being present. But let's talk about it going into next week. What are some things that can help us, that we can do to help us be in the present? So as I was saying, getting in touch with your senses is helping to be in the present, helping you to be in the present, and deep breathing. So those are two that I'm mentioning today. So my scripture for today, to me, totally reinforces being and living in the present in today, like being in today and living in the present, not in the future. And it's Matthew 6:34. It says, therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own, right? It does. So again, one of the ways to describe anxiety and what anxiety has in it is usually worry, which is fear, and it's about future things. So do not worry about tomorrow, even tomorrow. Tomorrow can mean like in the distant future, but in the general sense, it means literally the next day, right? So for tomorrow, we'll worry about itself. It doesn't mean don't plan. It doesn't mean don't prepare. It says don't worry. So I think that's a perfect scripture for what we're talking about being present today. That's Matthew 6:34. So again, I want to ask you to please share this video out with somebody. If you got anything out of this video today yourself, please think of a friend, family member who could benefit from this and send it to them. All you have to do is below the video, you should see a share bubble with an arrow. You click on that and it opens up your possibilities of how you can share it. There is messenger, email, text. You can also, it also always shows a copy link that you can touch and you're copying it. So you can copy that to a text, a message, email, whatever you want to do, however you want to do it. So there's more than one way to share. And that would be a great thing for you to do for a friend or family member because we all deal with this. And sometimes people deal with it more than they want to admit. So again, we're definitely going to be doing this for 2 more weeks, is what I'm foreseeing. And this is going to also prepare us for the holidays. So I asked everybody, I gave a piece of paper out at our grief support group this week in Newport Richey at our church that we have on Tuesday nights, to all write down something that they would, a topic or subtopic that they would like to be addressed in the group. And one, definitely somebody said anxiety, another person said, how to cope with the grief in the midst of it. And then there's holiday people, and I had said holidays are coming quicker than we think. So I really think that a lot of this is going to help us with holidays. So it's all going to tie together. It's a very important topic. So please share it out. Thank you so much, Julie K, helping you find your way. See you next week.